My wife of 22 years tried to force me to open our marriage for spicing up the bedroom with her guy friend, but she didn't know what I gonna do next. And here I thought it would never happen to me. Me, male 52, wayward wife, 50, together for 22 years, married 20, 3 kids, 2 young adults, 1 7-year-old lad. 5 years ago, the wayward wife had a late life epiphany. Sex was good and enjoyable. We went from 1 to 2 times a month to daily, and sometimes if time and responsibility allowed twice in the same day. The activities included seductive nudes sent to my phone or email and cutesy stuff, hearts and smileys reminiscent of our earlier days in the relationship before kids. Somewhere in this time, December through January of 2018, talks about spicing up the bedroom by bringing another person in the mix. First red flag. It was a guy friend from our cohort that the wayward wife suggested. Nope. It hard with a simple reason of not my cup of tea to be naked in the same bed with another guy and my spouse. It got dropped then, but articles about poly and open relationships were being dropped in my inbox or links on the phone. I would read them and vary from non-committal to not interested. A week before Thanksgiving of 2018, we're out on a date and the talk about including a third comes up. I ask if this hypothetical third has a name. It's a close friend with whom we spend a lot of time together, etc., and with whom the wayward wife has spoken about this idea with already. Pay for the drinks, get on the car, and proceed to flip my lid. 1. I never agreed to this. 2. For any such conversation, I should have been present and not told after it was decided. 3. No. Literally. The holidays sucked for all, but it was one of the best weight loss programs for all adults in the house. On February of 2019, we get our crap together and talk it through. She's repentant and remorseful, admits poor judgment and understands why I am not okay about the deceit as well as the whole idea. She got it. Sex life took a hit. We managed to find a new place, at least once a week, but the spark and lust were subdued. Earlier this year, apparent that I had a difficult relationship passed unexpectedly. I was there for a planned 4 days, stayed for 45 in a funeral. My baggage started resurfacing, especially some of the treatments that I experienced at being a safe one. The second choice. As I'm starting to deal with this crap, milkshake of the soul, wayward wife starts to be withdrawn. Always on electronics, limited conversation, and only about the basics. I'm at a place to deal with my loss and now this? Okay. I get on her machine after midnight when the house is all quiet, and there's nothing in recent email or on Facebook and on phone messages. There's activity, but nothing that points to coded or otherwise hidden messages. I check the time frames of 2017 to 2018. Bingo. I find sent emails to the friend from her with the same spicy pictures I was getting at the same time. Facebook Messenger for the same period is full of good mornings, smiley faces, hearts, and flirting between them. Video chats from 5 to 15 minutes. Wayward wife was starting a business, and friend would stop by for coffee or lunch daily as he could. At the time, he was there to help and advise. Flip of lid part 2. The idiot awakens. Got the 20k volts coursing through me all night. Could not sleep. Just paced. Around 6 a.m., wayward wife wakes and asks what's wrong. I open the laptop lid and show where the highlighted emails with her naked pics to the friend's email.
No inbox.
Just sent files. I asked how she would react as she found out I had pictures of a naked woman on my machine and that they were of a time period covering at least 10 months prior to what I said was a silly mistake. I pointed out that she did lie. She did have at least an emotional affair with the now verified affair partner, and it was deliberate. Trust was lost, and any statement from her at this point would be suspect to its truth. The first apologies of the wayward wife ended in the trash can as she started to vomit. I asked why she did not tell me of this 4 years ago. We would have dealt with this already. I told her I'm taking the day to think about it and sharing because it can happen to anyone. None of us are special. And here I thought it would never happen to me. Update. Today is day of firsts. The outpouring of support and trauma shared is staggering. I find myself glad and sorry that I'm not alone in my experiences. Thank you to all for the advice, comments, and suggestions from readings to step-by-step playthroughs. I have replied to individuals, but it's worth updating all and clarifying some points before the update. She did have a miscarriage that was a bloody affair that we rushed to the ER for with her soaked in her own blood. It was verified as such by the trauma staff and OBGYN at the hospital. It was early first trimester. No way to tell who the father was. This was early 2018. Got snipped shortly after. Sex life was still on the red-hot stage of things. I have heard from several of you that the DNA test route is a good idea. It's yet another truth that has been challenged today. A fair partner is single, has been divorced for at least as long as we are married. Racially, we're a European stock. He's mostly African American and Native American. He's very well-spoken, charming, and educated. Wayward Spouse was engaged in minority community outreach and education for years, as was a fair partner. Wayward Spouse, nascent business, was with an actual storefront. Sure, there were spaces that two adults could be intimate in. If there is a will, there's a way. A fair partner runs his own consultancy and makes his own hours. Flexible schedule and has small business experience. Offered to help with the startup and was an advisor. Again, legitimate reasons to be there plus time. Business was started in the fall of 2015. Storefront opened in winter of 2016. Closed shop spring of 2019. Good idea, bad execution. In retrospect, Wayward Spouse had her mind and focus elsewhere. And yes, the more I reread this text, the more of the calamity this man was for us. After spending the day in disbelief, anger, and errant voltage running through me, I came home. My insides are playing death metal while outwardly I whistle easy listening tunes. Wayward Spouses on the couch collapsed in on herself. She tried to get up to greet me, and I just pointed my hands at her. She sits. I grab the chairs far from the couch as I can. I inform her that I'm with one foot out the door. I will decide which direction to move in the relationship based on what she does next. I tell her that since she's the mother of the kids and out of respect for our time together, I will endeavor to keep nastiness on my part to a minimum. I remind her it's more fair than she deserves, and it's because of my self-respect, not her actions. Because of her effed up upbringing and the abandonment she experienced. I tell her not to be afraid of me disappearing. I tell her that if I leave, she will be explicitly told. I also let her know that her presence in the house is at my discretion at this point. She has luggage and can be told to leave if at any point she disrespects me or tries to lie. We discuss how to tell the kids. She wants to tell them that it's the fight from 2018. I remind her how one of the then teens stops being to her and how she would be a pariah once again in the house. She starts crying and I remind her if she did this, I will talk to the kids and with her there. She shook her head and cried. In return, to begin with, start with the no contact letter to a fair partner. Start the timeline on paper. Anything not true. We're done right there. A list of passwords to accounts, bank, and plastic records. She gets the couch. I will let her know what next. Before I leave the room, I asked her who is she? She has become a stranger. All right, let's see what top commenters say. Live Maze 6410 says, "You're about to be trickle truth into oblivion. Just an FYI 40 man. She is going to lie, omit, and obfuscate because that's what they always do. My advice is to take time for yourself and decide what you really want to do." The Opie replies, "Yeah, I know, but the cat's out. I really don't care of the color at this point or how big or small it is." Jackets Blue chimes in next. "You have a 7-year-old and this took place about 5 years ago. If it were me, I would be questioning that. Affairs are icebergs. You only see the tip." The Opie replies, "Get an eye out of the same blood type. Wayward Wife and Opie are different and very unique. The miscarriage that happened in that time frame is suspicious though." Fine Cannabis Grower chimes in. "You and I have so much in common that I can't help but feel the sickness and pain with you. I'm sorry, but I don't have any sagacious advice that could help anything. If she's like my wife, she's trickle-truthing and will never come clean. If you still feel you could burn it all down and start over, now's the time. I didn't because it was long ago and the kids were still small. You must know if you're going to take having a wife that you clearly shouldn't trust." The Opie replies, "Yeah. The whole awakening and going from a comatose bedroom to a hot one did not sit right at the time. As I mentioned, I have proof of the lying. What she decides to do is now tainted by that. I'm sorry that you two had this experience." Kranich chimes in next. "What you know is only what you found. which is not at all only the tip of the iceberg. Do you think that they only chatted friendly when they met during a time when they had already exchanged nudes? First thing you should do is go to a doctor and get tested for STDs. Then, distance yourself from her and take your time. You need more than a day to process what she did and to separate the woman you thought she was from the woman she actually is. Tell her to use that time to write down everything she did with that guy and why she liked the idea so much to humiliate you by bringing her secret lover not only into your bed to reach some idea, but even into your life. Open poly marriage. She also needs to write down why she was okay with losing you and your marriage, which is something she accepted when she started her affair. She knew what might happen if you find out. Stay away from alcohol and drugs. They won't help you. Instead, start doing sports or go for long walks. It will help a little to sleep at night. Tell her that she can sleep on the couch or in the guest room since she is no longer welcome in your bedroom until you made a decision. Let her face some of the consequences on what she did right away. You are worth so much more than to be treated this way. The Opie replies, "Thank you. Don't drink or self-medicate when upset. I need to think of the kids as well. I see the written admission timeline is punitive. She at the least had an emotional affair, probably a physical affair of some sort. The STD was done because I felt bad for the miscarriage and got a vasectomy. Little did I know at the time. So yeah, I need a few days just for the shaking to subside." Part 2. While going through the wayward spouse's phone, I found her text file with all her passwords to her accounts, Facebook, email accounts, Apple account, etc. So one more piece of intel. I have not been this angry, hurt, and confused in my adult life. I found all the things that I held as hard truths to be null. It's surreal having the person with whom you build a life with being asked to write a no-contact letter to her affair partner. It's even more surreal for the wayward spouse to not argue when I've been asking her to do things. I asked her to also provide me with the affair timeline. Based on what she wrote, I would decide on my next steps. This all the morning after. I got myself to work and got sorted there with management about time off. My manager was understanding and gave me no problems. I started going through wayward spouse's social media chats with the affair partner and started seeing a pattern of flirting and daily conversations from January 18th to almost June 19th. After that, there were more conversations between them, but mostly about a project that the two of them have been engaged for a while. There were 2 dates in the text lineup on March 19th and one on April 19th. The first was flirting between them where affair partner was commenting about wayward spouse's lips and how he loves kissing her. She replied back with heart emojis and how she could not wait to see him in the morning. This was during the time that I was away on a trip with 2 younger kids visiting family. Screenshot number 1. The second exchange was wayward spouse telling affair partner that she's sorry for hurting his feelings, but they need to keep it just to the project. Screenshot number 2. Send both screenshots to wayward spouse via text and ask that she include those in the timeline. She starts explaining over text that they are not what they seem. I text her to just put the explanation in the timeline. Finish a couple tasks at work and head home. Wayward spouse is sitting on the couch reading a book. I ask her how the timeline is coming along. She looks up and says she will work on it when she has time in the evening. She looked like she was crying but is putting on a brave face. I'm irritated by this. I can't interpret her stance. It could be I don't want to do this, it's not important, or can't face it, and you're not the one in charge. This is not a game. Send a text to my friend letting her know that I need an exit and shelter in place. Got confirmation and ETA. Grab my laptop, charger cables, etc. toiletries, and bug out back. Get the text from friend that says ETA is 2 minutes as I asked. Walked into the room with wayward spouse and asked when the timeline will be done. She says she's going to work on it that evening. I let her know that she can concentrate better without me there and that I will be back home when the timeline is complete and exit stage right. She's left mouth agape as I walk out. I had a timeline in my email inbox in 40 minutes. On the very first of the versions, half of the timeline were apologies, excuses, and reasons that made no sense. It took several days of edits and pointing the inconsistencies in the narrative. I wanted to drive home the time this was hidden, so I sent her a document that I had asked her to fill out because of her jumping around in her story. It was really a list of all the months from September to 17 of June of 2022. She started her timeline from September of 17 with the first set of spicy pics. She sent me and continued on from there with focus after the blowout we had, when she announced her desire to open the marriage up and have an affair with the fair partner. She felt ashamed and sorry for her actions in November of 2018 and did not speak to the fair partner until after the holidays. From in January of 18, while we were working towards reconciliation, she started speaking with him again, and he was supportive of her and understood where she stood. He asked her if she would like to drop out of their project, and she said no, as it was very important to her as a project in general. During that time, they continued to spend time together, but would no longer tell me about it. When I had noticed this, I had asked a fair partner why he was no longer around as much. Not that I minded, and he said that he was spending more time with his son, who was now staying with him. In providing support for their soft breakup that was our fight and almost breakup in November of 18 with Wayward's spouse, they got closer, rekindled, and continued with their emotional affair. The highlight was the texts of the screenshot I caught where the two of them apparently shared an intimate kiss for the first time, sometime on March of 19. After that, they continued having encounters when they could that were mostly making out and some petting over the clothing. Wayward's spouse apparently was feeling guilt and shame and broke it off with what was the aftermath in the conversation that got caught in April of 19 in text. When I had a cohesive timeline, I sent it to the affair partner and asked him what he had to say for himself. He responded with how sorry he was and that he never should have engaged in that relationship and how sorry he was. He would tell me anything else, but I needed to find out what happened. Told him that Wayward's spouse and I were talking about a sexual misconduct complaint against him. Truth was, we had never talked about it, but I knew the organization he worked for and the project the two of them were involved in and how damaging any such publicity would be. He sang like a canary and gave the Wayward spouse up without a fight, right under the bus. He admitted that she approached him, that he knew my reservations, but thought I could be open-minded. Wayward's spouse was to him a friend who truly understood the social issues of his life and felt he could speak to her with an open heart because she understood him. Yeah, I know. I had the same reaction when I read that. He was sorry for the damage and was just shamed for lying and keeping it a secret. I called him a snake in the grass and how I was not there to give him an absolution. From their timelines, I gathered that they were on and off and confused as to when it was just an emotional affair or just working on a project, and even the physical affair parts were strained, with him leading most of the time and her being active at first then passive towards the end. He said he was sorry. I told him to keep the F away from us, at least while I'm in the picture. Getting enough information between Wayward's spouse and affair partner, I think I got a pretty good idea of the truth to what happened. It was an emotional affair that got started from the Wayward's spouse attraction to affair partner, his role in pursuing and in some cases manipulating the Wayward spouse. The lying that they both engaged during the time, it was supposedly over lies, betrayal, and more lies. Had the talk with a couple of lawyers who pretty much said the same things. The most really honest one was the last one I saw, who up front told me that the post-nuptial agreement I was looking for would not make sense in the northeast of the U.S. because of how long we had been together. There would be no alimony, but the support that I would have to be would be more than half of my paycheck. To his recommendation, it was not the worst he had seen, so he would rather we spend the money on counseling versus legal fees. Either way, if we were to divorce, the process would cost as much of the postnup, so not a win there either. The night before my return home, he got quite drunk with my friend at her house, where 3 bottles of wine died for our sins, and my body, not so gently, reminded me that I'm 52, not 25. She's one of my best friends, even though attractive as hell, never made a move as I was always involved. She's also good for the ego, and took care of me emotionally and physically when I could not eat. Nothing like a Valkyrie telling you to eat or else. During my time away from home, I kept in touch with the kids and offered to listen to anything they had to say. 7-year-old was the hardest to speak with, as they could not understand but knew something was wrong. The day before my return home, visited over the house and had the conversation with the Wayward spouse. I set what I expect on the table. 1, she's to get a job. Enough living on my dime and saving the world one social program at a time. There will be no reconciliation for a year. 2, during this time we're in counseling, individual and couple, so I can get answers as to why. Also because no matter what, we're tied together because of the kids and need to deal with each other. 3, there will be no physical contact. Bought a bunk bed for the 7-year-old room, so she can move in and I get the bedroom. Meanwhile, I get the couch, which is fine. For because of all this, she has caused me to question what relationships are. Not sure if this relationship is what I want, or if we were to spouse is the right person for me anymore. I will date casually during this year if I choose. If she decides to do the same, we go straight to separation amicably. 5. I will conduct myself with dignity and compassion. I could go scorched earth, but will not due to the damage it will cause the kids. She's now a secondary priority. She's my first and will remain so. I had a full confession out of both a fair partner on wayward spouse, and even though there is still fog and shame, I know enough of what happened. Even if I don't know all the truth, I know enough to feel I'm right in my decisions. I also know that I will check the color if wayward spouse says the sky is blue for a long time to come. I made edits to this doc after falling asleep on it out of exhaustion. To all of you, thank you for support, wisdom, perspective, and reaching out. Stay strong, all of you.